Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
House Democrats are doubling down on their investigation into the Trump administration's management of the government's retirement processing system. That comes as some federal retirees remain without annuities months after submitting their applications. Here with the latest is Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
Let's start with some context. What has been going on with the retirement processing for the last several months?
We've seen a major surge in retirement applications from federal employees over the last several months or even longer potentially. And this really comes down to the Trump administration's broad efforts to reduce the size of the federal workforce. As an offshoot of that, a lot of federal employees have submitted retirement paperwork if they decided to take, for example, the deferred resignation program and they were eligible for retirement. They could then retire through that program and take advantage of it in that way. So as a result, we've seen a major increase, almost unprecedented surge of applications enter agencies, HR offices, payroll providers, and then the Office of Personnel Management as that final step of that retirement processing. But because of that significant increase in retirement volume, we've seen a lot of delays from federal retirees who are trying to get their applications processed, trying to get their annuity payments started. A lot of this comes back to agencies and payroll providers, but also OPM as those steps, get underway for retirement processing. And because of those delays, of course, we've heard a lot of frustrations from retirees as well, who have gone sometimes, in some cases, for months without any payments at all.
The House Democrats sent a letter to OPM this week. What are they looking for information on?
They're looking more deeply into OPM's retirement processing systems and how they're managing what's been a major surge in retirement application volumes. So, for example, they're questioning how OPM is making sure that retirees who no longer have access to their government emails or systems can still stay in touch with their agencies and get updates on the progress of their application processing. They're also looking for more information on OPM's new online retirement application, or ORA. This is something that OPM launched last summer to digitize the federal retirement process. And then the lawmakers are looking into some staffing losses at OPM as well. As we know, the agency lost about a third of its total workforce, or about 1,000 employees, during the course of 2025. That included more than 100 employees in the Retirement Services Office specifically. None of those were forced terminations or anything like that, but the staffing decrease did potentially create concerns from the Inspector General Office at OPM about how retirement services would continue processing all the paperwork and continue managing the customer service center and phone lines as retirees are asking more and more questions about the status of their applications.
This investigation in Congress actually started back in December. You've talked about a lot of issues here. Was there something that kicked it off specifically?
Well, there was just a lot of reporting, including Federal News Network's own reporting, talking about the unprecedented surge of retirement applications. I'm sure the lawmakers also heard from a lot of their constituents about frustrations and concerns with getting their applications processed. So they wrote an initial letter, that these House Democrats, to OPM Director Scott Cooper back in December to just understand the situation better and also question, how the Trump administration's workforce reductions have really had this outsized impact on retirement processing. OPM did respond to that initial request, but the lawmakers now with the second letter seem not completely satisfied. They said that there were gaps in Director Cooper's answers and they wanted more information on the situation.
What has OPM been doing to try to address this retirement surge?
Well, one was, as I mentioned, the online retirement application, which they launched last summer. That was a major improvement in OPM's ability to process applications. They say it reduces the amount of time it takes to process a retirement claim in half. And it's an attempt to modernize and streamline the government's retirement system, which for many, many years has been paper-based, has been very slow and cumbersome. So there are a lot of benefits to that ORA system, but at the same time, it's coming as there's a major surge in the applications too. So there are some questions remaining there. But other than the ORA, OPM is also trying to give at least interim annuities to retirees, which is essentially a portion of what their final annuity will be that they can get temporarily while OPM continues to process their applications. The only issue with that is that you can only get your interim annuity once your application hits OPM's step of the process. If your application is stuck with your home agency or with a payroll provider, then you're kind of out of luck and you're not going to be getting an annuity until those steps are complete and your application is at OPM. So long story short, OPM is trying to address this issue. They've been very transparent that, yes, there is absolutely a large surge of applications. There are still questions coming from the lawmakers at the same time here.
Drew, do we have good data about where all of the claims are in the cycle?
What we do get good data on is the amount of claims that are at OPM and being processed in that final step of the retirement process. As of March this year, there were about 55,000 retirement applications that were still not finalized, but being processed at OPM. That is significantly above where OPM's retirement claim inventory has been historically. But it is at least a little bit lower than it was earlier this year. If you look back to February, OPM had even more applications, 65,000 rather than the 55,000 they have now. So that's just a sign that they are potentially increasing the speed in which they're able to process applications, as well as just being able to process more applications by using the ORA system, that digital online retirement processing system. But there's still a lot of applications entering OPM system too, coming from payroll providers and agencies. We saw about nearly 15,000 retirement applications enter that step of the process just last month. So we've seen these numbers consistently for months and months on end. A lot of applications just continuing to flood OPM. And of course, on the other end of that pipeline, you're seeing retirees who are frustrated with the delays and not getting their payments just yet.
That's Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for keeping us up to date on this important story.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Terry.
You can find all the details in her story at federalnewsnetwork.com.